Welcome to the Awesemo Early Bird Podcast. It's your old pal EMAC coming to you with Thursday NBA action as we are on the cusp of the real opening day, forgetting about the Seattle Mariners, who are 2-0 and on pace to rule the world, and the Oakland Athletics that are on a record pace, lucky to lose 162 games. We've got 8 games courtesy of the association. Fella, how are you on this night before baseball Christmas, shall we call it?
Looking forward to it, man. I will say, though, and this is just being honest, MLB first day of NBA and week 1 of NFL to me I'm a bit more excited for that. And I think the reason is, especially with football where it's a novelty, it's truly a novelty. You know, I get it, Thursday, Monday Night Football, but mostly it is a once-a-week ordeal. It only happens for 17 weeks of the regular season. When it comes to baseball, I'm well aware that it is going to be a long haul, and the 6 months or so, 6 months plus, it's a grind. So I'm just trying to wade carefully into these waters.
Absolutely, and that makes sense because baseball season lasts about 180 calendar days. Within that, there's about what I would call 220 very playable slates for the split slates on Saturdays and for the first month of the season or 2 months of the season where they have all the day games. Then it all sounds exciting, Lofty, until we have the uncertainty of weather coming into play and all these other issues, which makes late scratches in basketball seem
I literally wrote the deep dive differently than I had all season today. I went game by game instead of position by position because how can you? You know, this was before the Bulls news, before the Conley news, before any of it. That's why for today's show, we will look at it and we will do our best to give you the foundation. Where we're looking at the stipulations of what happens if these players are out, because if we're just looking at it with who's been ruled out now and not consider anybody who we think could definitely be out, we're not doing anyone any favors because we know for a fact, EMAC, that things are going to change.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just that time of year. So let's jump on in here. A reminder, we have an incredible, robust schedule, both on YouTube and premium content from awesemo.com. So you can use the promo code EARLYBIRD, all one word, at checkout and get 50% off any 1 month package. That does, in fact, include the Fantasy Cruncher add-on if you want to choose that as your package. Starting on Thursday morning, which will be in a few hours or a few minutes, depending on when you're listening to this podcast. But from 9:15, we've got the NBA Strategy Show, and that's going to be Josh and Lofty. At 11:30, we are going to be doing the first MLB Live Before Lock. Now, for opening day, that's going to be Josh and myself, and we're going through all of the games. So FanDuel and Fantasy Draft are starting their main slates at 1 o'clock. DraftKings and Yahoo are starting theirs at 4 o'clock. So we'll cover all of the games before 1 o'clock. And we already know most of the opening lineup, so not a lot's going to change with that content. And then at 3:30 or 4, I forget which, we will have the NHL show. And then we're going to have, wait for it, that's going to be me and Nolan. Lofty's coming back with Adam to do the NBA deep dive. And then we will have an NBA Live Before Lock because there's only one game on Thursday for baseball that starts at 7 o'clock. Everything's going off between 4 and 7 or between 1 and 4. So there's a lot coming at you. And if you haven't set your lineups yet, I believe it is the PGA event in Punta Cana playing opposite the match play that started today. Lofty, it's a great time to be alive. We've got the Masters coming up. We got the Sweet 16 this weekend. We got all sorts of stuff here.
Damn right. Let's get into it.
All right, we've got, let's see, the majority of Miami seems to be a little bit dinged up. We have Rodney McGruder, who's going to be out. Justice Winslow has missed his last 6 games. There's a chance he's going to play. He's been dealing with a bruised thigh. Josh Richardson popped up on the injury report. He has a bruised heel. The one thing we want to remember is Miami, these guys are going to try to play if they can because they just slipped half a game behind Orlando for the number 8 seed in the Eastern Conference playoffs. We know that Kawhi Leonard is going to be out for rest against the New York Knicks. We know that Frank Jackson is in the concussion protocol. Anthony Davis, he sat the last game, says he's probable for this game. So, of course, Our mileage may vary. We'll have to see. Just scrolling here. Eric Gordon still questionable. Kevin Knox questionable. So the New York Knicks, a mess as always. There is a chance that Dennis Smith Jr. comes back. He has not played since March 12th. So we'll have to see what happens there. And then Frankie Smokes still out. I think he might be out for the remainder of the season. I can't remember that one for sure.
He was ruled out just for Thursday.
Oh, just for Thursday. Okay, thank you, Dave. And then Elfrid Payton, probable. Let's see. He had a sore wrist, only played 25 minutes in that game against Atlanta. I think those are most of the main moving parts, Lofty.
Yeah, there actually aren't that many big notable injuries right now.
Let's hit point guards here. I'm going to turn this over to you since I've been the one yammering away. We've got a robust schedule, so take it from the top.
All right, yeah, and just to throw this out there as well, we're talking back-to-backs here. I don't believe any teams – I don't know if you mentioned it. I don't think
I did not. I don't think any team has a back-to-back today. There was three that were for Thursday. There were three teams that did on Wednesday. But.
Right, yeah, Washington, Chicago, and another one. I can't remember who. But, yeah, three of them, none of them today.
The Lakers were the other one.
That's it, yeah, the Lakers. Point guard – for 8 games, we have a decent amount here. Now, look, the Nets have played the Sixers really well this season, and the Sixers have just dropped games to Atlanta and Orlando. They're basically trying to lose the 3 seed in the East. I expect this game at home. I very much anticipate them to win this. They need to win this. They can't come out slow. They can't look like garbage. $8,300 Ben Simmons does stand out to me as someone I really like here. Brooklyn's rim protection is terrible. Rebounding is terrible. They're not going to be able to prevent him from getting into the paint. It's a very good opportunity for Ben Simmons to bounce back. He was out with an illness last time, but I certainly like him here, and I really like that price point at only $8,300 on DraftKings. On the opposite side, though, I like D'Angelo Russell too. I mean, D-Russ continues to put up big numbers. He's been playing fantastic basketball recently. You look at his scoring totals over his last 4 games, 32, 44, 21, 39. That was the double overtime game. But nevertheless, you're getting great assist numbers from him. Kenny Atkinson knows he has to give his best player big minutes. You can't do any of this nonsense down the stretch where you decide to give him 23 minutes because he made a defensive boneheaded error in the first quarter. You can't do that anymore, and that's pretty huge going forward. I believe he should be solidified, barring a blowout, but we're not going to get into that. And then Luka Doncic remains way too cheap. I don't like playing guys against Miami, but when the price point is right, when the minutes are right, I will ignore all of that. It mitigates any of that concern. Doncic coming off another triple-double, his second in a row. Yes, he had looked fatigued. I believe he probably still is, but not enough to put him at 8,400. That, to me, doesn't make any sense. Just keep playing him until he's no longer at that price. Now, as far as we go, as De'Aaron Fox goes, a couple things to mention here. Number one, I had talked about Jaeger and my concern that he might potentially limit their minutes down the stretch with nothing left to play for. It didn't look like that was the case, but then the last 2 games, very close games. He's played 27 and 32. Another road game, I would expect his minutes to be capped around 32. If you like him at 76 against New Orleans, then that's solid. But I wouldn't be banking on him getting those 35 minutes again. In 2 competitive games, we've seen the minutes down. That doesn't mean Fox isn't very playable, but it definitely means that he is less enticing now than it would have been when I had him projected at 35 minutes. And I'll run through these guys because it is a very deep position. Eric Bledsoe against the Clippers is a strong enough play here. Depending on what happens with Dennis Smith Jr., Emmanuel Mudiay is at least available if you need him, should play 35 minutes or so. And this game's at Madison Square Garden. Maybe they don't get destroyed quite as quick as they did last time. Kyle Lowry's below 7K. And then if you work your way down talking about some cheap options, you know, if you think Kadeem Allen's going to get minutes, that makes sense. And then Ian Clark had 3 first-half fouls last game. Frank Jackson came out of the gate rocking with 12 points and then finished with, I think, 25 fantasy points, but only played 24 minutes because of that aforementioned concussion, 25 and 25. I was pissed because I had him projected around the fantasy point per minute in this game. And had he played his regular run, I would have been very happy with it. He didn't. What are you going to do, though? You know, that happens. So Ian Clark, played 25 minutes. I would expect him. It only makes sense. By the way, he had 5 fouls in that game, clearly lost playing time in the first half. Frank Jackson came back off the bench from only resting for a few minutes. I'm putting Clark above 30 minutes here. At close to minimum salary, you could certainly do a lot worse, especially given that he's facing a Sacramento team that plays at an elevated pace just like the Pelicans.
Yeah, it's definitely
I'm sorry, Mike. I forgot a very important one. Kawhi Leonard being out. Kawhi Leonard's out, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Fred VanVleet has to be considered here, assuming he gets the start. 4,800, his prices actually come down. Those are the two value guys I think we should be valuing most, and maybe Derek White.
All right, then we will have the Fred Van Elite Fan Club. Number 76 is on my Twitter timeline. So there you go. I have to play him, and I won't be alone because Kyle Lowry and VanVleet definitely do a lot better when Kawhi Leonard is off the court, which is the case here on Thursday. Toronto is favored in Madison Square Garden by a dozen points. So that's no respect for the Knicks.
Yeah. That's quite a hefty road spread.
And without Kawhi, what would it be with Kawhi? Like 18?
It would probably be around, I'd say 15 or so. And that's
they don't usually get much higher than that.
Right. If you saw a 15-point road favorite, that's insane, man. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's
It's
crazy.
March. It's late March for sure.
But anyway, those were the key ones. Yeah, I think you got them all there. Moving on to the 2-guard, you've got let's see, who haven't we mentioned? DeMar DeRozan will be going against Cleveland. Cleveland is coming into San Antonio. San Antonio 13-point home favorites, but someone's going to have to score the points. So not the worst spot for him at 7,800 on DraftKings. Remember, we pay for price for performance, and that is crucial. Buddy Hield, Laffy. Hey, didn't New Orleans draft him and then they gave up on him? There you go. That sounds like a revenge spot. In any event, he's taking 7.5 3-pointers a game on the season. So that is the reason you want to roster him going against.
Who did they give up on him for?
DeMarcus Cousins.
Yep. And who is no longer in New Orleans?
DeMarcus Cousins.
Yeah.
Soon to be Anthony Davis.
Yeah, I was going to say, who is on his way out of New Orleans, man. Wow, what a situation that is.
Oh, good times. But in any event, down here at the bottom, the price tag price point, Derek White, 5,200. Sweetly Williams gets a nice matchup against Milwaukee. He likes to dare people to shoot from the wings. That's right up his alley. What do you like here for our shooting guards, Dave?
So we already talked about a few of them. I won't repeat myself in terms of analysis. Talking about VanVleet being eligible, Clark being eligible there, Kadeem Allen, assuming everyone else stays injured. Derek White's eligible at shooting guard as well. So that really does help on DraftKings, no question. And so is Luka Doncic, and so is D'Angelo Russell. So those are the ones we've already discussed. You mentioned Buddy Hield in New Orleans. I do like this. Now, again, I do think that his minutes could be somewhat limited here. And by limited, I mean maybe not 35, but he played 35 last game. He did. Maybe I'm totally wrong about this. Maybe they just keep playing those regular minutes. I don't know. Fox's minutes have been strange, though. But even in the 2 games ago against the Lakers, Fox played 27, and then he played 32, right? So he played 5 minutes more. Kind of makes sense because Buddy Hield played 30 and then 35. So maybe Buddy Hield's just going to, even if they are limited, get a few extra minutes per game than Fox. I am projecting Hield for 35 here, and I'm okay with it. I also have this game being extremely high scoring, should have the highest total on the slate. We don't have one yet. I'm going to put it in my head around 238.5. We'll see where it lands, but I would expect it to be around there. You got like DeRozan against Cleveland. Yeah, he's fine. 13-point favorites, 218. So I'm like, he's okay, but I mean, don't you just get up to Doncic at that point, or even D'Angelo Russell? It kind of feels like that would make a whole lot more sense in that respect. Or go down to Buddy Hield, who you mentioned. I like him as well. Aside from the value guys that we've mentioned, I think that's it. Spencer Dinwiddie's always a threat to post solid numbers off the bench. And on nights where Russell does have an off game, it's possible, but I see it being far less likely going forward, given that his minutes are more stable. Dinwiddie could also get a lot of run. He is playing big minutes, And that's kind of all we need in a case like this to get where we need to go. I'll close it out with James Harden. Will I be getting to a lot of James Harden today? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Right now, Giannis Antetokounmpo, I think I like him a little bit more than Harden against the Clippers. Expect to see a ton of scoring here, 233 total. Basically the same price. Both of them are capable of doing ridiculous things on the court. It's always hard to pick between the two. I think right now I'm going to be leaning Giannis, and my early projections have Giannis ahead of James Harden as well.
Yeah, and the key with Giannis is you got to have the opponent stay in the game, because the last three technically have been blowouts for Milwaukee. They've won 116-87 in Miami, 127-105 in Cleveland, and 108-94 when you're hearing this 2 nights ago. Against Houston. So Giannis has played 33, 32, and 28.5 minutes. So as soon as he gets to 34 minutes, he is absolutely phenomenal, because he just contributes across the board in so many categories. Let's see. What is his three-point shooting at now?
Who, Giannis? 24%.
Okay.
Not great.
Well, when he becomes self-actualized, that's when that gets up to about 31%.
Right. He also leads the entire league in points in the paint, so it kind of makes up for it.
Yeah. Oh, goodness gracious. So anyway, Giannis there at the top for small forward. You'd kind of hit on Simmons. We've talked about Buddy Hield. Jimmy Butler at 7,300. I think you pointed him out at shooting guard, but that is somewhat of an enticing price point. Khris Middleton at 72 going against the Clippers. A little mediocre as we drop all the way down looking for some bargains here. Potentially a Kenrich Williams, maybe a Terrence Ross, possibly an Evan Fournier. We're going to have to see. This is where I think we'll find some value plays end up coming in, and it will keep us out of the bargain bin in the small forward, or it will actually be a good bargain. But we should be able to find something that will break in our favor throughout the day with 16 teams in our player pool.
You would hope so. I say that Giannis at the top, though, just to be clear, I really do like him in this spot a lot, and I don't really have any concerns. This is kind of a big thing for me. He can obviously just trash anybody in any team, like he did against Miami after Miami had played him really well. A team like the Clippers, their interior defense is very, very unimposing. Very unimposing, right? They allow the sixth most points in the paint this season. That's something that's very favorable if you're playing Giannis. They're allowing the 7th most second chance points this year. And they're also allowing the 7th most fast break points. So all areas that Giannis can absolutely excel in. I love seeing that. He's just fantastic, and he produces in so many ways. Plus, when you look at transition scoring, I would expect this game to be quite easy on Giannis when it comes to that. So he would be the guy at top of small forward for sure. Ben Simmons we talked about. Buddy Hield's eligible there. All of those guys, get them out of the way. You talk about the value. Who are the guys that you like here from a value perspective? I know you just mentioned them, but do you have anyone that really stands out?
I don't think there are, and that's where I'm hoping that we get some news that either gives us a value play at this position or enables us to go.
Oh, okay. I misheard you.
Higher in there. But one thing I do want to point out is Landry Shamet is questionable. He didn't play on Tuesday. And then Patrick Beverley has a hip pointer. He's questionable. You've got Danilo Gallinari. Lafayette. I was just looking at doing a little game log watching. In 7 of his last 10 games, he's made at least 3 3-pointers. That's just impressive. He's had a nice run here.
Yeah, if you're looking at the game logs, I think he's got 34 plus DraftKings points and 11 or 12 straight.
That would be correct.
It might be more than 11, actually.
12.
12. There you go. The thing is, and it's funny because last game against Minnesota, I was like, I think on a 10-game slate, Danilo Gallinari is is fine, but do you really have the upside at that price point? You know, what is his ceiling? How often does he attain that ceiling at that price point? Is it worth it? And of course, he goes and promptly drops 49. But so I was wrong there. I will say that you look at it, you know, 38, 37, 36, 44, 44, 35, 45, 35, 34, all, you know, very respectable. I actually think Gallinari is a better cash play because he just keeps getting it done. I'm assuming you mentioned the three-pointers because, you know, Milwaukee's one primary weakness has been the three-pointer this season. Giannis is definitely interesting here. And the truth is, small forward really isn't that great. Outside of Giannis and a couple of the multi-position eligibility guys we spoke of, I guess you could throw Rudy Gay into the mix against Cleveland. If this game gets out of hand, he'll be one of the first players off the court, but he has played 32 minutes in 2 of his last 4 games. You hope that he gets the minutes and doesn't see the playing time curtailed for any specific reason. We know Greg Popovich can be wily at times. You know, guys like Luke Kennard against Orlando is a very stout defense. I don't really see the need to take the risk there. It's a position that really does not offer much. The last guy I'll toss out just because I think we have to. I think you mentioned Kenrich Williams, but that feels disgusting. I agree that, you know, he deserves to be mentioned, but it's gross. The last one I will mention, I guess, would be Mario Hezonja because we know that Vonleh is going to be out. How many minutes will he play? I don't know. If he plays 27 or so, I suppose you could do worse. But, man, 26, 27 minutes against Toronto doesn't feel all that friendly.
Yeah, unless we're going to go with the Davis and Darius Bertans.
Yeah, no thanks.
Good God. Anyway, back to moving on to power forward here. A couple decent guys, that we haven't mentioned yet at various positions. LaMarcus Aldridge, always solid, steadfast. This is a nice matchup for him. He's coming off 2 really good games. He dropped 48 real points against Boston and then put up 20 and 15 in 43 minutes against Charlotte in a loss. Now, the reason I bring this up is the San Antonio Spurs are trying to climb out of the 8th seed. Now, technically, the Kings are the only team that has not yet been eliminated in the Western Conference, but they're 5.5 games behind San Antonio. So it's unlikely that San Antonio is going to lose this the last spot, but that means they're probably going to have to play the Warriors. Not that it's that exciting because they'll probably have to play the Nuggets, but if they can gain a game and a half, which is all they're behind on Utah, currently with Utah playing right now, that gets them to either facing the Trailblazers or the Rockets. So that seeding is important because if they want to have a chance of getting out of the first round, they're not going to do it against Golden State or Denver. So I just want to call that out. Looking at Blake Griffin, Lofty, he has picked it up a little bit. He's averaging just shy of 7 assists per game over his last 4, about 23 points. Looks like just a little bit shy of 9 rebounds per game. So that is somewhat interesting. 32 field goal attempts against Denver. 32 field. We don't see that very often.
3-point loss as well. Yeah. I think a lot of it has to do with you look at the Detroit Pistons and they are 7th right now in the East. They have a very legitimate shot of not making the playoffs. They've dropped 3 straight games to a tough Denver team, a tough Golden State team, a tough Portland team, all of which came on the road. They went on a 4-game West Coast road trip. Now they're home. Blake Griffin's playing a lot of minutes. He's going to need to turn up the heat a bit. They cannot afford to lose. So, they really can't. You look at the 6, 7, 8 seed, sure. But when you take a look at the 9 seed, they are a half game back. You mentioned that earlier. The Heat a half game back of the Magic and only 1 game back of the Pistons. The Hornets are only 2 games back of the Pistons. So it's not just one team here. You have the Heat and the Hornets that are still technically in it. And I shouldn't say technically. They're still very much in the thick of it. 2 losses for Detroit and 2 losses for the Hornets. They are tied in both the win and loss column. Big deal here for the Detroit Pistons. And, Blake Griffin, is still priced below 8K. Now you ask yourself, what about the really difficult matchup with Orlando? It is difficult. He struggled against them this season. I do at least think from a usage standpoint, there is some you can't say that if he's getting those minutes and he's becoming more involved now, it seems like he's caught a second wind or something. There is merit to considering Blake at sub 8K. I do not hate that whatsoever.
Yeah, and maybe that game off that he got on the 18th of May.
Yeah, sure. Sure. Now, I'll throw a bit of a wrench into the works. LaMarcus Aldridge has been spectacular, and he's only $200 more expensive. He's facing the Cleveland Cavaliers. Yes, there's always blowout concern late in the season, but if he gets at least he's getting his minutes, assuming he does, even like 30-some, even 32 minutes, Aldridge should have a very strong game here. But it gets deeper than that because you then have Marvin Bagley, who coming off a brutal game against Dallas, only 18 fantasy points in 24 minutes. It was rough, but we know that Jaeger is willing to give him big minutes when he's playing well. Against the Pelicans, yeah, I think there's a very, very realistic possibility that Bagley bounces back in a big way. You have Pascal Siakam, who's playing without Kawhi Leonard, who is arguably the best power forward on this slate, given his price tag. There's quite a bit here. I probably haven't mentioned all of them. Hell, Anthony Davis plays 21 minutes. He'll give you your 45 fantasy points against the Kings. Yes, I really like power forward. It's surprising because it's been a bit of a shallow position lately. But from Siakam to Bagley to Blake to Aldridge, you're going to have a tough time making the bad decisions here. And then the one more I will throw at you. We'll see how this one goes over. It could clearly be a unmitigated disaster, but we'll do it anyway. Is how many minutes will Christian Wood play? He played 32 minutes last game. Okay. So Diallo in the starting lineup, mind you, Anthony Davis was out, but Diallo played 19. Jahlil Okafor played 8 minutes in this one. And my assumption is that Julius Randle, who turned it up in the second half, somehow got to 34 minutes. I don't know how. He'll probably play the same amount of minutes. But can Christian Wood, with Davis back in the rotation, can he get around 25 minutes is the question if Okafor doesn't play at all and Davis only plays 21? I think the answer is probably yes. The bigger question is, can he play well? Last night or Tuesday night, he had a monster 23.9 rebounds, 6 block, 3 steal, 53 fantasy point outburst against the Hawks. Newly signed Christian Wood. Will Alvin Gentry reward him with significant playing time in a very solid matchup against the fast-paced Kings? That is the question.
All right, I'm just looking up some numbers here for him. Has he played? Okay, so he's played a little bit in the NBA. So he's played in the G League for the last.
Christian Wood, yeah, he's been around, man.
Yeah, I thought I recognized the name, but I just couldn't put a pin it. But it is.
I mean, I don't blame you for not, recognizing him. But yeah, he was with the Bucks. He was with. Was it just the Bucks?
Charlotte, New Orleans?
Charlotte, that was it.
And Philly, your Philadelphia 76ers, Lofty.
That's right. Yep. Yeah,
so,
he's actually logged some minutes with some teams for sure.
Let me see. Get over here. So he's played 45 NBA games. He's averaging eight minutes a game. So he's seen time, and that's been done over 4 years. His G League numbers are fine. He's essentially been a starter the majority of his career in the G League, playing most of the games other than when he was up with whatever big club he was for the year. But he started 108 of his 123 games. He averages 32 minutes and then 22.5 points, which is pretty solid. He gets to the line a ton here. He gets to the line 7 times a game in his career, 9 times a game this year. So that's I just look at some of those numbers because it's hard to tell with the G League what's going on because it's definitely a guard dominant league. And
14 free throw attempts on Tuesday in the NBA.
Yeah, so if that can continue, we might be able to catch some lightning in a bottle.
I don't think that continues.
Half of it. If we get half
of it. Yeah. I hear you.
But from UNLV there. So that's where he's from. Anyway, that I think that's most of what we had there at power forward. I was just poking around with Siakam's number there with surprisingly with Lowry on and with Kawhi off, he has about the same as he does. It's a fantasy point per minute. I wanted to see if we just ignored Kyle Lowry here, if that changed. So with because that would imply he's with the starters. Yeah, it stays about the same. It's 1.1 with Kawhi off and him being quote on. So not a huge change, but I do like Siakam because someone's going to have to get the rebound, someone's going to have to take some shots, etc. And he may get more minutes against New York if this is a game as well in hand than perhaps Kyle Lowry, who's been dinged up a little bit. Maybe it'll be Siakam that carries the day and wraps up what should be a victory for the Raptors. Moving on to the pivot position to get on out of here, we have Joel Embiid at the top in that enviable matchup going against Brooklyn. Nikola Jokic going against Houston. Not my favorite spot to see him. Vooch and Drummond are going to be battling each other. That's one that's not going to have us doing cartwheels. And then Capella's going to have to be roaming out of the paint to go after Jokic. Not always the best thing for him. A lot of options here, Laffy, but I think it's Embiid standing out at the top.
Sorry, I was looking at the hashtag my 600-pound life trending on Twitter.
Oh, jeez.
You ever see that show?
No.
Oh, man. That's a real treat. Okay, we'll keep going here. I'm not kidding. That show is something else.
Like in an inspirational way or in a I'm watching a train wreck way?
Very much both.
Oh, okay.
Very much both. Like the first half is train wreck would be sugarcoating it. Nuclear devastation.
So like if you're 600 pounds, can you get out of bed? Is that?
Dude, they say 600-pound, my 600-pound life, because you can't name it my 6, 7, 800-pound life. But, 600 pounds is light on some of them. I mean, you're talking 8+ on a few. It's.
Oh, my.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and you got the I won't get into it too far. Someone might be drinking coffee. All right.
That's what the NBA strategy show is for. You can get that at 9:15.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. You're right. Joel Embiid here, very difficult player to ignore. The Brooklyn Nets are flat out trash when it comes to defending opposing centers, when it comes to limiting rebounding. Pretty much everything here. They are going to get carved up. Joel Embiid just does everything well, as we know. We don't really need to get into it. But there are a few areas that he excels at the most that Brooklyn is the worst at. Look, points in the paint. Joel Embiid, he backs you down. Good luck. You are really going to struggle against him there. And then every other category that Joel Embiid is skilled at or polished at, the Brooklyn Nets aren't. So I'm going to go back to the well with Joel Embiid here. I still think he's reasonably priced. I do like him more than Nikola Jokic. I think Drummond is still too cheap. Yes, it's a tough matchup, but $8,600 Andre Drummond is still very much in play. And then Vucevic against Drummond at $8,500. Both of those, dueling bigs, both of them make sense. I don't know where ownership will be there, but my guess is that because they both have pretty tough matchups, the low price points might actually go a bit overlooked. And then aside from that, in the middle, I don't love Capella. Randle against Sacramento is okay, but I think he's a bit overpriced. You have Griffin and Aldridge here, but I'd much rather play them at the 4. The same goes with Bagley. It's kind of weak. Brook Lopez I would throw out as a decent option. He's playing 30+ minutes. His price is up a little bit, but he's been pretty decent. Bit about Adebayo. I don't know what type of minutes he's going to see against Dallas. He has played 30+ in 2 straight games. He might actually be a decent play at 5,800, believe it or not. And then what are we going to get from a minute standpoint when it comes to – well, by the way, Jakob Poeltl is there if you need him, but he's kind of a last-ditch effort type deal. And Ed Davis being another player where, man, if you just look at Nets Twitter, yes, it exists. They're all about Ed Davis getting the minutes over Jared Allen. Go back from last night and look at some of these comments, man. They're all aboard the Ed Davis train. Maybe Atkinson will be too. Ed Davis, super cheap here, only center eligible. But if Jared Allen's getting beat, if the Piss is getting beat out of Jared Allen early, we might see Ed Davis come in. He played 24 minutes last time, and the reason that's significant is because we haven't seen Ed Davis get above 20 minutes in a while now. Jared Allen seemed to have secured that role for the most part, with a few other minutes from a couple of other bigs in the front court. But the last guy to mention would be Mitchell Robinson, just because he is a guy that can churn out monster fantasy totals when given the run. You look at this: March 20th, 30 minutes, 40 fantasy points. March 22nd, Denver, 23 minutes, 36. And then 14 minutes against the Clippers, where he still has 21 fantasy points on 2 points, 2 steals, 2 blocks, 2 assists, and 7 rebounds. You get Mitchell Robinson up to 24, 25, maybe more minutes. The sky's the limit at 4,400.
All right, that is going to wrap it up for us here. Remember, we do have the sorry, I'm getting messages from Josh here talking about baseball content. We've got 3 NBA shows on Thursday, 3 MLB shows on Thursday, and then there's a hockey one. So we've got 7 shows over there on the Osmo YouTube channel. Definitely get over there. Like the videos, hit subscribe, hit that notification bell so you know when we're putting out the content, because a lot of split slate work going on here in the first few weeks of baseball as they get the various opening days, and some of the cold weather cities play afternoon games, etc. So you'll want to definitely check it out and have some fun. We've got ownership projections, articles, all sorts of premium stuff behind the paywall. We've got the Slack chat, and we've got office hours, which has been a nice addition. And our own Alex Baker is holding court in those tonight. So definitely check that stuff out. You can follow Laffy on Twitter at Laffy_D. I am at EMAC DFS, and it is Osmo_COM. With that, gamers, good luck.